How does an island disappear? Off the coast of Florida, the sea is slowly reclaiming the Dry Tortugas, and what's happening here may be a glimpse into the future for islands around the world. Can we stop it? Well, some nations are trying, using some pretty wild ideas. The question is, will it be enough?
We visited one of the most remote and mysterious places in North America to help us understand what's happening as islands face the rising tides of climate change and what they can do to fight back.
The national park at the Dry Tortugas preserves the historic Fort Jefferson, a giant brick fortress in the middle of the ocean.
In the middle of nowhere.
To be honest, I was surprised on our visit how small and remote this place is. Now, you know that Kai and I, we love exploring and explaining the wonders of the world for all of you. But getting to this one was no easy feat. It's 70 miles from Key West. No roads, no bridges, just ocean as far as you can see.
Ocean. That's because 99% of the park is under the water.
And that water, that's the real key to this story. And to understand how these highlands formed and how the sea is changing them, we need to zoom out for the bigger picture.
The Florida Keys didn't start as land, but it's life. Coral. These islands were built by the ocean itself.
The Florida Keys stretch across 800 islands from the mainland to the Dry Tortugas, but they're just the tip of something much bigger. The Florida Platform.
Think of Florida like the tip of a giant, mostly submerged geological iceberg. You can actually see it from space. It's that massive.
When sea levels fall during the Ice Age, more of the platform's exposed. But when glaciers melt, the ocean returns, and so do the reefs.
So, how did this island form? Well, as it turns out, there's more than one way to make an island. But the process that formed the keys usually requires the changing sea.
For example, the upper keys, like Key Largo, are actually ancient coral reefs raised above sea level when the ocean dropped 125,000 years ago during the last ice age.
Wait, so Key Largo is basically a fossilized coral city?
Yep, kind of like the Bahamas, but the middle and lower keys, totally different story. Those formed as sea levels repeatedly rose and fell, creating sandbars that cemented into rock along with those ancient fossilized corals, which is a bit unique.
And the Dry Tortugas?
Yeah, the Dry Tortugas, they're the wildest of them all. They aren't even solid islands, at least not in the traditional sense. They are built slowly by the ocean from dead coral, shell fragments, and sand, and they are still in motion today.
So, like a sandy coral layer cake? So many ways to make an island. Also, whatever the heck a sandy coral layer cake is, I don't think it tastes very good. Oh.
Want some ice cream to go with that sandy coral layer cake? Because the ice cream truck is here. I'd like it to move along, please.
Mr. Frosty! And what the sea builds, it can also erase.
Because of the unique way they formed, the Dry Tortugas are particularly vulnerable to climate change. But this also makes them an interesting example of the challenges facing our most vulnerable places.
If you looked at a map of this area 200 years ago, you'd see more islands here than today.
In fact, the Tortugas atoll had up to 11 and as few as 5 islands during the past 2 centuries. Some of the smaller islands have disappeared and reappeared multiple times.
Some have vanished completely. Others disappear and reappear with the tides and storms. The ocean is constantly redrawing the map, and climate change is speeding it up.
And this is the real problem of climate change facing the vast majority of island nations today. While some islands are in danger of disappearing altogether, many more are changing their size and their shape in response to changing seas.
And these changes create some real problems for the people living there.
How do you flexibly plan for where people should live and work and go to school and do other things on an island where coastlines keep moving with shifting sands and rising tides?
Well, as it turns out, there are some very creative solutions to managing islands.
Now, some of these may seem intuitive, like building seawalls to help keep the ocean at bay, and many places have already used projects like these to protect their coastline.
But the others are truly innovative solutions, like creating artificial islands raised above sea level to house their population.
Which you find in Hulu Male, an artificial island created by piling sand on a reef.
You're putting in the wrong place.
Oh, sorry. It's me. Climate change, right here. Just gonna take the sand away.
Hey, No.
I'm gonna take the sand.
No.
Get away.
No.
No, it's leaving. It's coming with me. Ah, climate change. It's all right. There are other solutions.
Like what? Or you could build floating cities or structures flexibly anchored to the seabed so they can rise and fall with the tide.
Like this one being built in a lagoon just off the Maldivian capital. When it's finished, it's estimated to be big enough to house 20,000 people.
That's a lot of people.
Way to
problem solve, humans.
Well done. Yeah.
But what do you do if your island is one of the ones doomed to disappear? Because unfortunately, dear viewers, some islands will not survive the predicted sea level rise happening in the next 100 years.
And unfortunately, this will be the likely fate of the Dry Tortugas. Scientists predict the park will be under 9.4 inches of water by 2050 and 2 feet by 2100.
So the big question is, what are we willing to do to protect what's left of Dry Tortugas before it disappears?
We're already spending a lot of effort to save this place against the forces of nature. Is it time for us to start considering some more dramatic plans to save what we can?
I don't know, but I'm Dry Tortugas.
Yeah, I got that.
Fort Jefferson, the massive 19th century fortress on Garden Keys, holds a lot of history.
It is a testimony to the efforts already spent to conserve this place. The fort itself was under construction for 30 years and never finished. And today, it's a constant construction zone with efforts to keep up with the environmental impacts on this structure.
Because nature has the final say, and it's increasingly taking more to push back against rising tides.
Ongoing construction, seawalls, moats, all of this may not be enough to save the fort and the island in the next 100 years. And we cannot exactly relocate the fort to a floating island all that easily. So when do we start focusing on preserving the history instead of the island?
Or can we do both at the same time?
It's true, the Dry Tortugas are not alone, and around the world, low-lying coral islands are vanishing right now. Some entire nations are at risk, people, but even here, in the face of some terrible, life-challenging circumstances, humans have come up with some amazingly creative solutions.
Way to go, humans!
Again, great job. Keep up the good work, humans. Hey, fun fact, do you know why it's called dry?
Why?
Because there's no fresh water on the island? That's right.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So they drank salt water?
No, I think they preserved water from the sky, called rain. Word finding.
They preserved water.
Let me try that again.
From the sky.
They preserved water from the sky.
Known as rain.
They stored rain in cisterns.
Thank you. No, they preserved water from the sky.
Preserved water from the sky sounds fancy. I could probably bottle that and sell it.
Anyway, back to...
Moving on. We were talking about something. Turtles, jellyfish. Oh, right. Climate change. That seems important. We should probably go back to that.
Yep.
Yeah. Take Tuvalu, a tiny Pacific nation that NASA scientists predict will be significantly submerged by 2050. So they're planning now to save their island on the internet.
That's right. Tuvalu has begun creating a digital copy of itself, an entire country preserved online in case the real one disappears underwater.
A virtual nation with digital land, digital culture, even a digital government. It may just become the first fully digital nation ever. It sounds futuristic. Maybe it's the future for more places than just Tuvalu.
And maybe this isn't as radical as it sounds.
Like at the Dry Tortugas, we may one day need to consider something similar. Imagine we can digitally preserve the fort, the history, the stories, the entire place, so we have them to share with the world for generations to come.
Because we know the one constant on our planet is change, we cannot ignore the fact that Dry Tortugas may not last another lifetime.
So we better get creative to flexibly adapt and survive as landforms disappear and change shape and even move 3,662 miles, like this one did.
That one! Whoa, we love it. Do, 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 do.